bardu tagi kapsuchi. Dagi jinsoki peso namgi. Drola penshir sange jupasho. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yampe semchen tamshe dewa dang dewe gurdang dempar jorchi. Dug now dang now gi gu dang dwell jorchi. Dug now me pe dewa dang mi dwell jorchi. Nay ring chak dang ni dang dwell wei tang nam la ne pa jorchi. Now, if you have your book, if you can go to page 12, please, tonight. This is the Sagarmati Requested Sutra. You recite in Tibetan, in English. Likewise, be extinguished. Extinguish all enemies to my purpose. Whatever evil forces are in me, be defeated. Do this so that when I am victorious, all pure radiance melts into me, completely purified. Take all this knowledge, food and drink peacefully, enjoy it, and be satisfied so that all obstacles may be destroyed. Be liberated from all obstacles, all general obstacles. Maras are defeated by this gesture of the Buddha. By reciting this mantra, may all the Maras be purified. As a result, may all the Maras be defeated. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming and being here tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you. So tonight, I wanted to talk about the stages of meditation. We've been talking about this, and we were going to do this. So I'm going to be kind of direct about things. If you're looking for a practice, I'm going to give you a practice tonight. It begins with these opening prayers that we just started. This is the first part, to set our motivation, our intention. Then the next thing that we need to do is to enter into the practice and to go through our reminders of what it is that we're trying to accomplish, what it is that we're trying to do. So before we do that, we need to just have a mindfulness of what it is that what is our goal? You know, what are we trying to be successful in? To be successful. If we're talking about our children, we want to be a successful parent. If we're talking about being an athlete or a ball player, a tennis player or a baseball player, a football player, we need to see the ball. We need to be the ball. We need to recognize what the goal is. If we're going to be a meditator, we need to understand to be the mind, to recognize the mind. What is it to recognize the mind? Be the mind. If we're going to be celestial bodies, we need to be the sun, or we need to be the moon. We need to be the light that is within us all this light that suffuses everything that we know and think and conjure up in our minds. We need to be that. That's what we're trying to be. If we do that through the instruction of a great leader, a great teacher, whether it would be Jesus or whether it would be Moses or whether it would be Muhammad or whether it would be the Buddha or Krishna. There's so many great teachers. Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching. There's so many great teachers. So we need to be that which they are instructing us to be. So we need to have this goal in our mind and be able to work towards that goal, to be that. So there was a film I just watched recently, and it had a great quote in there from a great ancient Sufi saying. It said, don't you know yet? Don't you know yet? Don't you know yet? It's your light that lights the world. So we individually need to be able to ignite that light, to be able to recognize that light within ourselves and ignite that light so that it radiates and illuminates all that that light lands on. So these are just some mindfulness thoughts about why it is so important to be able to develop a meditation practice. We've been learning about all these academic things, all this philosophical stuff and so on, and it's important stuff. But the real work comes when we become the embodiment of all of that. So we need to take those notes. We need to take those guides, and we need to put those in front of ourselves when we sit down to do meditation. And sometimes we just need to pick up one of those pieces of paper and we need to read that to ourselves or out loud and then contemplate what the meaning is. And then contemplate all the permutations of how that all affects us in the outside world, within ourselves, what our experience has been with it, and so on. And then we do that to the point of exhaustion. But then we rest, because that exhaustion has led us to this place of space, to this quietude. And from that quietude, then we have the meditative experience. So this is what we're trying to do, is to have confidence in that and to develop that and to do that over and over again. It's just not a one-time thing. It's something that we revisit all the time. And then what we find over time is that that meditative state becomes who we are in our normal state, that we can go to work and we can do the things in our family and all that kind of stuff. We can do that with that same meditation mind, with that same purity that we are seeking, that we are developing, that we're cultivating, and that we're stabilizing through our meditations. So how do we control our mind to be able to get to this? How does it work? So what more would you like to do with your mind? So these are questions that we need to be able to answer. And do we need a system to be able to do this? Or is this something that we expect to be able to sit here and do and be able to figure out on our own? We may want to do that. We may think that we can do that, but how much time do you think you've already wasted to be able to get to this point right now? And how many times have you thought to yourself, wow, I've been learning stuff about this spirituality and so on. It's really great. I wish I had done it sooner. So I think all of us have had that thought one time or another. So now we have an opportunity to recognize that there is this system, the system of Dharma, the system of the Buddha, and it's not the only system. It's not exclusive. There's many other systems that we can follow. But this system of Buddhism is very articulate, has a great deal of support in scripture and brothers and sisters, Sangha, etc. So there's a lot of good reason to be able to accept this as our system, use it, and then assimilate it into our lives. And then we can begin to kind of tweak it for ourselves. It's not so rigid that there's only one way to do this. There's a lot of things that we can do within the Dharma that we can adjust for our own personal understanding or actualization, the way in which we wish to practice it, and so on. So one of the things that we need to recognize is that we all come from a mother. We may argue about the quality of our mother and so on, but we have to recognize that we've all been born of the womb. And with the best intentions, that mother wanted to protect us, wanted to have long life for us, wanted to teach us fearlessness, wanted to teach us how to get along in the world and so on like that, to have a good and happy life. Maybe it wasn't our mother, maybe it was our father, maybe it was an aunt or an uncle, maybe it was our grandfather or grandmother or an aunt or whatever. Maybe it was some caretaker that had that kind of vision and devotion for us. We need to have that vision for ourselves to be the mother. I use the examples of being the sun, being the moon, being the ball, being the success. Being the mother means that we are recreating ourselves all the time. And what that means is that we don't have to stay static at any one particular point. We can change. We can move along. We can evolve. We can be a better person than we were an hour ago, than we were a year ago, that we were in a past life, or whatever. We can be a better person today and tomorrow. And if tomorrow leads to another life, well, then that's fine. But we need to work at today. So the visualization of being the mother for ourselves and then for other beings, to share that with other beings, is an important mindfulness vision. So now we come to the stages of meditation. So I've sent you all a link to this, whether you've been able to download it or you've been able to print it. I can screen share it now, and we can use this as a guide for ourselves to follow. This would be our practice. So here we're following the stages of meditation. So first we begin by doing our opening prayers, which were setting our motivation, our intention. So I hope that was successful. If it wasn't successful, if you don't have that awareness, that sense of doing this for others' benefit, to helping others to achieve enlightenment, then maybe we need to go back and repeat some of those prayers, and maybe then slowly read them quietly to ourselves rather than reciting them out loud. If out loud didn't do it, then maybe we need to take more time and be able to read these quietly to ourselves. Ultimately, it would be a wonderful thing to be able to memorize those prayers, because there will be times when we won't have our books with us that we will wish that we could recite those prayers. And if we've memorized them, then they become part of who we are. We can remember them by our heart, as we say. I remember those from my heart. My heart, those prayers are embedded in our hearts. And I'm sure that there are prayers and there are poems and there are stories that you remember from the time when you were a child, whether it was 5 years old or 8 years old or 10 years old. There are probably some things that you can recite, some songs or something like that, because you've memorized them to the point that you know them by heart. And you know the vibe in which they are vibrating at. And that is something that you resonate with. So I'm just making a point how important this is to be able to become the embodiment of those prayers. So now, So now what we are going to go through here, let me see here. I want to zoom, sorry. I guess maybe this is better. Okay, so if I move this out of my way. Okay, so we start with the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. Now, we've been through this, and I told you that all the the Buddhist practitioners, up to and including the Dalai Lama, repeat these prayers to themselves or for others every day, because it has a way of being able to keep our wheels on the track, to keep, like we're a train, to keep our wheels on the track, to keep it so that we are focused, mindful of what it is our daily deeds will be. So these four thoughts to turn the mind to the Dharma, and I always say the four thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma and that keep us focused on the Dharma, keep our mind on the Dharma. So the first is the precious human life. So maybe now you can close your eyes, you can sit in the meditation position. If you prefer, you can open your eyes and follow this with me. But we read this first part of the prayer, and it says, Ho, this kind of leisure and endowment is supremely difficult to obtain. When one obtains the body, which is easily lost, do not waste it meaninglessly, but rather use it to attain ultimate liberation, joyous result. So we should sit here and close our eyes in the meditation position and contemplate the meaning of this, what it is to have a precious human life, not just an ordinary human life, but a precious human life that has awakened the realization, the connection of our spiritual body, our spirituality within our physical body and our intellectual body. And it's very difficult to obtain. And it's very easy to lose it. And we don't want to waste it meaninglessly, but rather use it to attain the ultimate liberation, joyous result. Joyous result. To be happy. To be free. Free of all the confusion, free of all the suffering, free of all the entangling relationships, to be free as a Buddha symbolizes for ourselves, that we have a meditational deity, someone that we can look to, who inspires us as a perfect human being. Maybe it's Buddha, maybe it's Jesus, maybe it's Mohammed, maybe it's Krishna. Maybe it's not a human being at all. Maybe it's a symbol, like a statue or a stupa, or just a beautiful sunset or a sunrise or a beautiful blue sky or an ocean. Something that reminds you of that freedom and what it is to be a human being, to be able to enjoy that freedom. So we contemplate this. If you have a timer, you can set your timer for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever is convenient for you. But give yourself ample time to be able to allow your body and your mind, your intellectual mind, to settle down. Sometimes if I set my timer for 5 minutes, it takes me that long to settle down. And then the last 15 seconds or the last 30 seconds of that 5 minutes, then all of a sudden, I kind of have this sense of freedom. So we roll with that. That's the way it happens. Sometimes it happens right away. But we have to give ourselves ample time to be able to to recognize that. The second of the four thoughts is impermanence. The prayer goes, the nature of all phenomena is impermanence. Death is a certainty to all who are born. Death can descend any time, like a drop of morning dew on a blade of grass. Quick, it is time to make effort for the essence of the Dharma. The Dharma, of course, is the teaching of the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, who gave us this great gift to be able to intellectualize what it is to be a human being and all of its goodness and all of its badness. And to be able to bring both of those, our dualistic nature, onto the path of enlightenment. And along that path, which is phenomenal nature, is this impermanence that we recognize that our life can end at any moment for any number of reasons. And that this death is a certainty to all who are born. It doesn't matter whether we're rich or poor, young or old, a man or a woman. Any being is subject to death. And this death can descend any time, like a drop of morning dew on a blade of grass. So quick, like water rushing over a waterfall. It can't go back. A river cannot reverse its flow. Our life is moving in that direction, headed towards death, impermanence. We embrace that. We've experienced this many times. We've been born many times. We've died many times. It's just like going to the closet and putting on a new suit of clothes. It's like taking a shower, cleansing ourselves, being reborn again. Every meditation is a practice, is a rehearsal for the death process and the rebirth process. So it's time for us to make effort for the essence of the Dharma teachings, the pathway, the system. So we contemplate the meaning of this. Then our timer goes off. We arise from that contemplation. And thoughts that may have come into our mind during that period may have been of the confusion of the day, or confusion of yesterday, anticipation of what was to come, anxiety of what happened, the suffering of samsara, the ocean of suffering, this phenomenal nature in which we live, rising up in our thoughts, just swamping our mind with this, not allowing us to have a free and easy meditation. So we need to be able to bring this onto the path, this suffering of samsara, onto the path of enlightenment. So we recite this next prayer. It says, in the three lower realms, and even in the three higher ones, There is not an instant of absolute happiness. I will avoid the root cause of my samsaric existence and practice the excellent path of peace to enlightenment. So in the three lower realms, the animal realm, the hungry ghost realm, the hell realms, beings are involuntarily suffering because of past actions and current actions that keep them in this suffering, that has not allowed them to have a moment's peace to be able to rescue themselves from this ocean of suffering. Although there are many techniques that we've discussed, and many more that we can discuss, they're caught in these lower realms. And even in the three higher ones, the higher realm of being a human god, a deva, or being a human titan, a demigod, one who is in constant conflict, and being a human being who's caught in the attachments, the desires of everyday life. So in the three lower realms and even in the three higher ones, there's not an instant of absolute happiness. We can't hold that for any period of time. We can't hold that happiness for any time because of the vicissitudes of those six human realms, the changes of those six human realms. But we recognize that we can change. This is a human quality, that we can change, that the other realms cannot change. So I will avoid the root cause of my samsaric existence. I don't know why it is that I'm here. I don't know for sure. I know it's a combination of many things, but I don't know what the root cause is. The root cause may be just the ignorance, what we call the ignorance of hatred, the ignorance of delusion, the ignorance of attachment, of jealousy, of greed, of pridefulness, of hatred. It doesn't matter what that root cause is of that samsaric existence. I'm willing to let that go. I can't do anything about it anymore. But now all I can do is change. And what I change to do is to practice the excellent path of peace to enlightenment. I put myself on that pathway for peace, for the quietude to attain enlightenment. So we contemplate that. Take a deep breath and hold it. Put yourself on the path. And then exhale all the negativity and confusion of being on that path. And hold that empty breath. And breathe in again. That peace, the quietude of freedom on the path to enlightenment. And hold that breath. And then exhale all the anxiety, all the confusion of being on the path, not realizing the stability that we can find there. And then we take another deep breath and hold it and visualize the light that is that peace, that mindfulness, that is that love, and hold that. And being mindful of holding that peace, that light, just relax and breathe normal, but keeping that light within yourself radiating that light all around you, illuminating all the darkness wherever you are. So what is it that has caused us to be in this ocean of suffering? This karma, this action, this cause of the actions and the result of the actions. What is that? So we look at that and we say, oh, the fruit of one's positive karma is happiness. Suffering is the fruit of negative karma. The inexorable karmic causation is the mode of abiding in all dharmas. Henceforth, practice the dharma by distinguishing between what should be practiced and what should be given up. So if we're happy, it's because of our positive karma, our positive actions. If we're suffering, it's because of our negative karma. Whether it's karma that we caused an hour ago or yesterday or last year or in a prior life, we can see that this happiness, this suffering are threads that run through the fabric of our lives. And maybe our fabric is one of a very happy lifetime. But there's this thread or two or three or four that runs through it of confusion, of negativity. And we need to be able to recognize that and to be able to understand that in order that we can overcome that. So it says the inexorable, that which cannot be argued. It's a natural law. We can't explain it, but yet we know that it is there. We know that there is this law of reciprocity of nature, a spiritual law, that if we do good deeds, good things happen to us. If we do bad deeds, bad things happen to us, and that we can change. This inexorable karma causation is the mode of abiding in all dharmas. We just can't be totally focused, at least in the beginning, on just one of these pathways. We have to look at all these different dharmas. But we are going to distinguish the Dharma. We are going to practice the Dharma by distinguishing of what should be practiced and what should be given up. So those things that have caused the suffering, we can let go. And those things that are making us happy, we need to exalt. We need to stabilize. Not to the point of obsession, but to then bring the difficult dharmas onto the path with greater understanding and neutralize them with our positive nature, neutralizing the negative nature. We do that through love and compassion, bodhicitta, through the joyfulness, and through the equanimity, not thinking of ourselves as special, thinking of ourselves as typical of all human beings and enjoying that. And so we abide in this peaceful cause, karma, and result, taking responsibility for both our happiness and our suffering, and knowing how we can neutralize our state of mind, our state of being. So we contemplate that. We take a deep breath and we hold it and ignite that light within ourselves of our spirituality, of our connection to all things. We exhale, maintain that connection point. And we breathe naturally as human beings, but in the light of peace, of love, of bodhicitta. So this is our meditation. We begin with the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma, the actual meditation part, reciting these prayers to ourselves. Then we come to the next part of the stages of meditation, of understanding bodhicitta, the holy enlightened mind. This is how we focus. This is how we overcome. This is how we neutralize all the things that we need to endure in our everyday lives. Whether it's our families, we need to endure our families. Whether it's our work, we need to endure our work. Whether it's our physical, emotional difficulties in our life, we need to endure those. This life is a life of endurance. Buddha Shakyamuni even used that word to identify this planet in his teachings on the samadhi. The samadhi is the mind of meditation. To be in deep meditation is to be in samadhi. And explaining that, in explaining that, he used the word endurance. This is a commonality of what it is to be a human being, is to endure this ocean of suffering as a human being. So we do this now through the teaching of the bodhicitta and the stabilization of that teaching. So this is all part of our meditation. First, we use the method of loving kindness. The method of loving kindness is this first method where all sentient beings, limitless as the infinite nature of space, have been our mothers from beginningless time until this lifetime. Therefore, to these kind mothers, to sustain happiness, it's necessary for me to relinquish hatred and to develop loving kindness. So our mother is that example of the being who has created us within her body, within her womb. And she gave us birth. And regardless of what kind of mother she became, she did that. And she did that to a point that we were able to breathe on our own and to be able to begin living, although we needed to be taken care of. We couldn't have done it by ourselves. So for many of us, it was our mother who birthed us, was the one who took care of us, who nourished us, who washed us, who changed our clothing, who made sure that we had the warmth or the coolness to be able to rest peacefully and to be able to learn right from wrong. So we need to be that embodiment of the mother. We need to recognize all beings as being our mother in past lives, in lives now, in lives to come. That the mother principle is so fundamental to our existence, temporary as it is. So the example, the method of thinking of the mother, and to this mother, for her to sustain her happiness, is necessary for me to relinquish hatred and to develop loving kindness. That it would be an abomination to our mother if she raised us to do hurtful things, to cause suffering for other beings, to physically hurt them, to steal from them, to lie to them, to force ourselves physically upon them. So we need to be able to develop this loving kindness, the same as the mother showed us as an infant. Once we were born, she gave birth to our body. And for those 9 months or so, she bore all the painfulness and the suffering that she needed to go through in order to be able to give her body for us to be born. She surrendered her body for us to be born. And then she was doing that in a way that was sacrificial, and that she was willing to give up her life. If it was between her passing and leaving and being able to enable her child to be born and to be raised well, she would sacrifice her life. And once she gave birth, if she was physically able, she would continue to help support her child. She would give up her life for that child. And then she taught us what to take up and what to abandon, what good things we needed to develop, and what negative things we needed to let go. How to be a good human being. She taught us what to take up and what to abandon. And our mother performed austerities for our benefit. Maybe it was a family of modest means, and they lived from paycheck to paycheck, from one visit to the food store to another visit to a food store. And so she managed the household very frugally, but very sensibly, very full of love, so that we never even thought that we were poor. We had everything that we needed because our mother saw to it that we did, and she made sacrifices for the household in order that we may be able to grow, be strong, and be able to be independent human beings, thinking for ourselves. So these 4 kindnesses of the mother is the first part of studying, contemplating the method of meditation, the stages of meditation, the method of Bodhicitta, the holy enlightened mind. And to exhaust this, exhaust thinking about the mother, reciting this prayer. Loving kindness, the first method to attain enlightenment. All sentient beings, limitless as the infinite nature of space, have been our mothers from beginningless time until this lifetime. Therefore, to these kind mothers, to sustain happiness, it is necessary for me to relinquish hatred and to develop loving kindness. The 4 kindnesses of the mother has shown. She gave birth to one's body. She would give up her life for oneself. She taught one what to take up and what to abandon. And she performed austerities for one's benefit. So this is our meditation. This is this part of the meditation. So for us to get to where we are right now in this meditation, in this practice here, it's taken us about 50 minutes or so. You're not going to have this every day that you can practice 50 minutes. And there's more to come. But you begin by trying to do this as a routine, and you work in your schedule how to do this. And we try not to leave things out, or we try and leave things in a place where we can come back to them in the next day and pick them right back up, or later in the day. This is part of developing a practice. This is part of the system. We leave it to ourselves, we're going to find many shortcuts. So the next method is the method of compassion. Even though these mothers desire happiness, by the force of non-virtuous action, they are tortured in the 3 lower realms. Because of their unbearable suffering, I develop unbearable compassion. So our mothers have done these wonderful things for us that we talked about as part of loving kindness, the wisdom that she has shown us, the love that she has shown us. And now we are, a child. Now we are a young adult. We're a teenager. We're a young adult. We have families of our own, whatever. Even though these mothers desire happiness in their life to come after they've given birth to us, by the force of their non-virtuous action, they are tortured in the lower realms. So this isn't to say that every single mother is going to go through this, and that not to say that they are going to be tortured, so badly in these lower realms. But it's quite possible that they have done non-virtuous action, and there will be karma that they have to resolve in their lives. And this is identified through the visualization of the hell realms, the hungry ghost realm, the animal realm, then the 3 higher realms, the human realm, the demigod realm, and the human god realms, that the mother has to go through those. She's raised us. We may think of her as this great person who is beyond any kind of possibility of suffering in her life because of the nobility that she has shown to us. But yet she's a human being herself. And she's subject to the same foibles that you and I are. So what would we do to protect our mothers, to keep our mothers from falling into those sufferings of those lower realms, those unbearable sufferings? Would you develop unbearable compassion in order to help your mother, to protect your mother, to rescue your mother? So in order to do that, as part of this meditation, we visualize our mothers suffering in each of these 6 realms. So first we visualize that she's being tortured by demons in the hell realms. So of course, those demons are her own internal demons, her own maras that are creating her suffering. What would we do to help her to overcome those demons? Would we not rescue our mother? And then experiencing hunger and thirst in the predator realm, the hungry ghost realm. If our mother was suffering that hunger and thirst, would we not try and feed her? Would we not try and give her nourishment? Would we not try and give her water or drink to be able to satisfy her? What would we do to make our mother comfortable if she was caught in that hungry ghost realm and we were aware of that and we had the ability to be able to help her? Would we not do anything that we could? And if our mother was in the animal realm, being beaten and eaten by other beings, whether it was human beings who were enslaving her as an animal, whether it was other animals, wild animals that were chasing her around and trying to devour her, or bugs that were ravaging her being and attacking her and so on like that? Will we not do anything that we could to save our mother, to protect our mother from falling into the animal realm and to the sufferings of being an ignorant animal? And the suffering of sickness and old age as a human being. As now, as we are all middle-aged senior citizens ourselves, will we not help our mothers? Don't we help our mothers? And maybe we help them find a suitable home as they get older and they get more frail, and their each illness becomes more of a threat to their lives, whether it's COVID or the flu or a simple cold or a fall, where they break a bone, they break their pelvis or something like that. All these different things, the sickness and old age, we do everything we can to help our mothers, to find a suitable place for them. Maybe we take them into our own home. Maybe we find an assisted living or a nursing home for them, or the right hospital for them, or the right doctors, that we take them back and forth to their doctors and so on, and how our lives change for the sake of our mothers as they move into their senior years. And then we contemplate, we visualize the heedless pleasure and the conflicts of the demigods, of our mother being a demigod, of being like a titan, who is constantly trying to become in conflict with others, to have what others have, to be showing their jealousy, and to be engaging in pleasures that are beyond their ability to be able to separate themselves from. They are obsessed with their pleasures. Maybe it's their home, maybe it's their clothing, maybe it's their friends, maybe it's worse, it's things that they don't tell you about, and that they're in conflict, between themselves. And sometimes as we get older, we enter into dementia and so on, and we begin to create arguments within ourselves, within our families, and within our friends and so on, the people that we live with, just for the sake of doing it. So visualizing this, we want to be able to save our mother from this. We're developing compassion. We're doing everything we can to protect our mothers from falling into these realms. And then finally, the desperate falling from pride of the human God realms. The pridefulness where we may have the ability to be able to help beings, but we selfishly are seeking our own pleasure and ignoring the cries, the prayers, the wishes that other beings are praying to us to help them. But it's our pridefulness that, I am so supreme, I am so good, I can't help them, I can't be compassionate, I don't even think about compassion for other beings. That they enter into being a human God themselves from this pridefulness. And then because of their not paying attention, of their inability to be able to have compassion for others, those other beings suffer greatly. So that when these beings who are like in the God realms, when they pass, they go directly to the lower realms, because they had the ability to be able to rescue, to help those other beings that were beseeching them, but they were unable to answer their call. And so they fall into the lower realms, maybe even into the hell realm, or into the hungry ghost realm, where they are miserly and they're suffering from their stinginess, or they are animals where they are suffering from their ignorance. So this is part of developing the stages of meditation: loving kindness, compassion. This is how we develop a practice. You may say there's a simpler way to do this, but this is the way that we're taught to do this by the Buddha, and that is supported in the Dharma teachings. There may be other ways, but this seems to be perfectly imbalanced, perfectly resonant with the human condition. It's not contrived. It's just very natural. Bodhicitta is within us all. The holy enlightened mind is within us all. But what we have done is we have surrounded it, we have blocked it up with our emotions, with our confusions, etc. So we don't recognize this holy enlightened mind. So here is a way to be able to recognize the causes of those blockages, of those emotions, and be able to release them by recognizing that bodhicitta within ourselves, within the center of that, so that it becomes like a heat source that melts the ice that is surrounding that holy enlightened mind. So then the third method to attain enlightenment is empathetic joy. To recognize that all beings, and our mothers in particular, may they have happiness and be free from suffering. And may they sustain the happiness which is free from suffering. It's really very simple. We want them to be happy. May they have that happiness, and may that happiness be so profound that there's no suffering toward it. And may they sustain that happiness that's free from suffering, and may I not give them cause to suffer. So we go back to the first loving kindness when we said, oh, if I don't want to do negative things that would cause my mother to suffer. And you know that most of our mothers suffer enough on their own, just from their own worry and concerns, their own anxiety. They don't need us to make that worse for themselves. So we do everything we can to bring them happiness that's free from suffering, and that they can sustain that happiness and maintain that freedom from suffering. And maybe part of that is showing them your happiness, showing them that despite the fact they may not have taught you anything about the Dharma, you didn't learn it from them, but maybe they see, oh, wow, that this really has affected you in a very profound way that I'm so grateful for. Your mother's thinking this about you. This would be a great gift. And maybe she'll even ask you about it. And that you're able to, in simple terms that she can understand, be able to give her teaching on what this bodhicitta is, what this loving kindness is, and what the gifts are that she gave you. Did you give her a teaching on what the stages of meditation are, what the method of loving kindness and compassion is, and that she was the inspiration for this? I think many of us are guilty or feel guilty that we didn't express enough of our love and devotion to our parents before they passed. And now that they're gone, we feel that we let them down in some way. We let ourselves down. Or maybe we feel kind of paralyzed right now. Our parents are still with us, but we can't find the words, or we want to be able to find the words and to be able to express to them these thoughts that of how they have helped us. So maybe this will be an inspiration for us all to be able to find the words to be able to do that. and to teach our children these things, because we will always be our children's parents, but we will become old. And so when one day our children need to understand this continuum of life and the respect that we need to give our parents so that they can show it to you, that they don't go through suffering that causes you suffering. And if they have to use us as an example in which to do that, then why not? So the fourth method to attain enlightenment is, may my mind abide in equanimity towards these beings. What does this mean? This means that no matter what our mother is doing, no matter what our parents are doing or anybody else, may my mind abide in equanimity, in balance towards these beings. May I find that quietude. May I find that meditative peacefulness, and be able to show them that. Not to have to make them feel guilty about it, or not to be able to chastise them about it, but just to be able to show them your happiness is a great gift. They may not be able to take responsibility for your happiness at this point, but just to be able to show them that that happiness is possible, where perhaps before they didn't know it was possible. So this equanimity, does my mind abide in equanimity towards these beings, even if our mothers or our fathers are cantankerous and very difficult and everything, that we are always showing them loving kindness, compassion, and joy and equanimity in our own minds. So to go through this takes another 10 or 15 minutes, the way I explained it here. But once you understand this, once you've gone through this a number of times, you can come right back to it. You may not have to go through every single detail here every time, but there's a method here, and you can recreate the method. This is a very repeatable routine. And once you establish this routine, you can move on to other things. But then if you take a vacation, if you go away, if things happen in your life that are very disturbing and your routine gets upset, you also know that you can come right back to this and recreate this for yourself and restabilize your meditation practice very simply, very profoundly. So it has that ability to be able to allow you to recall the work that you've done, despite the fact that you may have left the work for a time. So we recite the 4 immeasurable qualities of bodhicitta, and we do this in our opening prayers. This is the 4 vast immeasurable qualities of bodhicitta. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. So each one of these 4 lines is a statement regarding loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So we should be perfectly stable, mindful of this. And then we come to the bodhicitta itself, recognizing bodhicitta, the 5th method of attaining enlightenment. And bodhicitta means the wholly enlightened mind. Bodhi means enlightenment. Citta is the heart mind, the holy heart mind. We say heart mind because It's not our intellectual mind. It's not our brain. It is our heart mind. It is our spiritual mind that we are recognizing, this enlightened mind, and that it's been confused, it's been surrounded, it's been blocked up by our intellectual mind, by those emotions. So we're releasing the emotions so that the shards of light from our bodhicitta come forth and are able to illuminate the darkness around us. So we recite this short prayer. Now I lack the ability to bring happiness to these migrators. Therefore, I engage my mind diligently to attain the supreme ultimate state and bring these mother beings to complete happiness. Bodhicitta, the unity of emptiness and compassion. I make effort to practice the ultimate Dharma beyond conceptual thoughts. Vajra Samaza, the indestructible vow that breaks through. Vajra means indestructible. Samaza is the vow that breaks through. So this prayer is very simple, but to the point. Now I lack the ability as an ordinary human being to bring happiness to these migrators, to our mothers who are migrating through all these lifetimes, going through the process of birth and death, going through the ocean of samsara over and over again. Now I don't have the ability to be able to do that. But therefore I engage my mind diligently to attain the supreme ultimate state that is beyond being an intellectual human being, that is becoming a spiritual human being, and bring these mother beings to complete happiness through spirituality. Then bodhicitta, this holy enlightened mind, the unity of emptiness and compassion. What does that mean? Well, compassion, we know, is the act of actualizing the loving kindness, having the wisdom to be able to do things, to be able to recognize things. The compassion is the actualization of doing that. The emptiness is our phenomenal nature. Is all this unexplainable stuff that's happening around us, all this myriad stuff, all this web of what we call life that entangles us in this web. But bodhicitta is the unity of that compassion, that actualization of wisdom with that emptiness, that empty nature of this phenomenal world in which we live, that is empty of its own innate nature. It is all contrived. It is all from our emotions. It's all from the demons that we have allowed to manifest within ourselves. But it's empty of its own nature. Being able to recognize that we have this temporary existence, but recognizing that this temporary existence is empty of its permanence, we do that through the compassion of going through step by step, breaking it down, logically breaking it apart, putting our life back together again, and then leaving out the unnecessary pieces of suffering so that what we put together is a happy life, a satisfied life, a life that we can be, that can radiate the goodness that is our essence. So I make effort to practice the ultimate Dharma beyond conceptual thoughts. The conceptual thoughts are locked up in the phenomenal nature. That's where the conceptual thoughts are, and all this fabricated conceptual thoughts. But beyond that is the ultimate Dharma. the Dharmakaya, what we call the Buddha nature, our true nature, whether we call it Buddha, whether we call it Dharma, that doesn't matter. Those are just words. Whether we call it God, whether we call it Christ, whether we call it Krishna or Brahma or whatever, it doesn't matter. But we know that there is this indescribable, unidentifiable essence within ourselves. And this is what we are trying to abide in, to make our lives that. And so we declare this indestructible vow that breaks through our conceptual thoughts, this phenomenal nature. Vajra Samaza. This is a Sanskrit phrase. Vajra Samaza. And you think of it as a sword cutting through all the confusion, all the anxiety, all the duality, all what it is to be an ordinary human being. So, I'm trying to, there we go. So those are the first stages of meditation. This is something that has taken a little over an hour and 15 minutes to go through with the amount of detail that I just went through it. It's important to be able to articulate this to yourself. You've got this framework on which to work. And part of our meditation is developing, fleshing out that framework so you can recite this to yourself. You can say these things to yourself. And it's going to take you some time to do that. It's not going to happen in one pass or two passes or three passes. It may take you years to do it. But this is our lifestyle now. This is what we're doing. Once we get stable in this, then we move on to what we call shamatha meditation, calm abiding meditation, where we can rest in that calmness. And when that calmness gets interrupted through the emotions and so on, we kind of go right back to these early stages of meditation to restabilize ourselves. And there will be times when we are trying to work on our shamatha meditation, where we have to go back. So we have to have a firm foundation in this. So you may have a shortcut. You may have another method that you want to use. And of course, you're free to be able to do that. But here is a tried and true method that will work if you put the effort in. Vajra Samaza, the indestructible vow to break through. So I open this up now for any discussion.
Lance, I have this book by a fellow named Blofeld called The Tantric Mysticism of Tibet. I found it in a bookstore one time. And he talks about Tibetan Buddhism as opposed to Zen Buddhism. And he says that both are valid, but Tibetan is actually an easier vehicle to attain enlightenment. One may not think that there's much going on in Tibetan Buddhism, but actually the ritual and the meditation is a better vehicle, a faster vehicle even than Zen. I don't understand what he means by that. I'm not disagreeing with him. Do you know what he's talking about?
Yes. Zen is very effective. However, Zen has a lot of, I'm going to paraphrase, has a lot of space around it. It doesn't give you as much instruction as what we just went through here, and in so many of the other ritual ceremonies and practices that we do and so on. And that's why Tibetan Buddhism is easier in that respect, because it gives you a great deal of support. And, other people can talk about that, to practice Zen. Tom has practiced Zen, and he can talk about that better than I can. But I've been to Zen temples, I've been to Zendos and engaged in the practices, and you're left very much to your own devices. Here, there's much more support. So it really is as simple as that. It may appear that there's a lot of stuff here, and that stuff becomes, impediment to you being able to have that peacefulness of no thought, of freedom of your mind, and so on. But to be able to develop that on your own without this kind of support is more difficult for me anyway. So this, it's worth the while to learn all these things. So analogy might be, wanting to be a brain surgeon and not going to school, just going out and buying a book and reading about brain surgery, rather than going through all the stages of medical school to become a brain surgeon.
Thank you.
Does that help in understanding it?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does.
Would anybody like to comment further on that or another topic?
Lance?
Yes, sir.
First of all, I'm sorry for being late. I've had computer problems tonight, which I'm not sure how I figured out, which means I still have the problem. But I've read Khenpo's book on the stages of meditation, and I've got another one which I'm sure you've read, The Essence of Mahayana Teachings.
Right.
Which I have not read, which I think will help me to understand a lot more of what you've been addressing tonight. And I can't recommend it to everyone except that Khenpo wrote it, so I'm quite sure that it's good, because I haven't read it.
Right.
But, I just wanted to mention it to everyone, and it might be worthwhile for people to explore.
Well, what I talked about tonight was right out of the book, Stages of Meditation.
That I've read, but
so it's committing yourself to applying it and establishing it as a routine in your life. If we read a book and then move on to another book without practicing the first book, you're missing the point. Hartley, did you want to say something, or you just?
Yes, I was trying to unmute my mic. Sorry about that. This may be a little off topic, but when we talk about the things like the 6 realms and the suffering of samsara and things like that, I tend to start reflecting on my past experiences of samsara and suffering and the different realms. And I find that I can get in a quagmire instead of staying in the present, where I am not focused on those things and I'm in a peaceful place. So there's something missing in how I'm navigating that I don't quite know how to articulate, but it seems like when I focus on those things, I tend to go backward instead of staying in a equilibrium place that I would be regularly. If that makes sense.
Well, it does. And there's going to be a period of, what seems to be confusion, where things aren't organized. You don't have the table of contents. You don't have the index, within. You're just receiving all this information, and it hasn't been properly categorized yet. So part of that is that not getting it through the formative stages and doing it first stage and going to the second. It's sometimes a result of coming into the middle of things and not having those early foundational parts and so on. So, but in any case, we need to be able to go through that many times. So it's not unusual for us to start in the middle, but then we start seeing the value of establishing those fundamentals. So not giving ourselves up and saying, okay, I've got to stop looking at this other middle stuff. I got to concentrate on the fundamentals and stay with that, and then slowly move to the next parts and so on. And it takes time. It takes commitment to do that. And the ego kind of suffers from that. The ego wants to fight against that because the ego wants to know right now. It wants immediate gratification, doesn't it? So we have to tell the ego, look, settle down. We're learning something here, and the result is going to be something that we both can be very happy with and be able to be able to use as our work as we move forward and so on. So you have to control your mind. We all have to control our mind. That's what we're learning to do, to develop our I can't think of the word right now. Our thinking, our critical thinking. We have to develop critical thinking. And just as we would do with our children, if we had young children, we have to get down to their level and talk to them in ways that they can understand so that they can critically be able to understand what they're doing. We have to do that to ourselves too, and not give ourselves too much credit and saying, oh, we can skip the fundamentals.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I have to work on. So
you're on the right path. You know, we're learning it, we're doing it, and we're going around several times, you know, and it's a commitment to do it and to stay with it, you know, and frankly, I'm being very direct tonight, you know, and we got to establish a routine of being in these teachings and being in the practices, you know, not that it has to be the teachings that we give here in 101, but whatever teacher you choose to be with, stay with that teacher for a time. Establish a consistency, you know, get that critical thinking going where you can see where it begins and ends and where the middle is and all the various parts and everything. But if we keep interrupting ourselves, it's hard to get that. It's hard to get that stability.
yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'd like to mention that Gary and Hadley took their refuge vows this past weekend. And that's a wonderful, that's a great foundation to start your practices. You have a wonderful foundation right there. It's very stable, very solid. And you can just build on that. You know, really. You know, you have the foundation now that, you know, when you're building a house or a building, and, you know, that's the most important thing is the foundation. You have it now. So then if you listen to the teaching tonight, I mean, that just further reinforced that foundation. You know, it just takes little baby steps, you know, doesn't mean you have to do 2-3 hours of practice every morning. No, you can take little baby steps. You know, but the important thing is getting off the couch and actually doing it.
Let me ask, since you've been home, and what, Saturday, or what was it, Saturday? It was Friday, you took vows.
Mhm.
Have you read that card? From beginning to end?
Sorry. The one with our name in it?
Yeah.
Yes, but I don't have it memorized, so
All
don't
right.
ask me to quote from it, but yes,
Well,
I've been trying to read the little booklets too,
well,
so.
that's the point. Read it. You know, it was given to you for a particular reason. You took refuge, And it means that you're taking refuge in these teachings and these practices and so on. So don't treat it lightly. You know, I know many people who have taken refuge, and you know, I ask, well, what's your refuge name? And they look at me, you know, what do you mean? You know, and I said, well, don't you remember you did this, you did that, and you got this, and you got that. Oh yeah, well, I haven't seen that for a while. You know, so we got to make the point that you're making a commitment to yourself to do this. The Buddha is within yourself. You're making a commitment to recognize that. It's up to you whether you do it or not.
I was very happy that you put a little notice on WhatsApp about that, because if I hadn't seen that, I would have completely missed out. So thank you for doing that. I wouldn't have known to be there. And I've certainly felt the effects of having taken refuge. And that's something that I've been wanting to do since we first did the Essence of Mahayana Teachings, the book that was held up earlier. I had this great desire to want to, and I know we're not supposed to have desire, but I still had this desire to want to take refuge and to see what, if I could actually do that. And it was such a wonderful experience. So I'm very grateful.
Good. Thank you. Yes. Use the word aspiration instead of desire. There'll be other opportunities to take refuge, you know, in not too distant future, I'm sure.
You read my mind. Thank you.
Very good. Yes. And then
Lance, this is Vera. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that just as an observation and a comment, that I really appreciated, especially now that, you know, it's the holidays and people are coming together for family, when you were talking about like parents and those analogies. That was so helpful. And I had an aha moment where, because today I was in a difficult situation with my own mother, and listening to your words, and I had what you were describing, and then I kind of want to leave our group meeting and then call my mom and thank her, actually, as a point of compassion to her. So I just connected a dot in a way that, like, in an experiential way, that I'll leave this meeting tonight and apply it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for saying
Yeah.
that. Yes. That's really good. And that's what this is about. You know, becoming enlightened means becoming enlightened in this lifetime. It doesn't mean you have to wait until you die, your body goes away, and another lifetime. The goal is to be able to lead an enlightened life now. So all this training, all this stuff is applicable to this life. That doesn't mean it's going to be 100% perfected, but we're going to work at it. You know, at least now we've identified the goal, and we've identified many of the tools that we can use to attain that goal. And so, if nothing else, maybe we see that it's not a random event that happens. Enlightenment is not random. Is not something that is just an accident that happens when a number of things come together. It is a focused effort. And that's what the book that Gary was holding up, the Mahayana, you know, was being able to say, this is the middle way. This is the successful path to be able to put oneself on the path to enlightenment. So that's the next big step after we establish a good meditation practice. And if you can't do it right away, you know, everybody understands. Look, young, you got businesses, you got, families to take care of. You can't do it every single day, but you can begin to establish the routine of doing it, even if it's just for 15, 20 minutes every day, something like that. If you skip a day, you skip a couple of days, you take a vacation, you know how to get back to it. You learn more about getting back to it after you've been away from it than you do if you keep doing it every single day without fail. Because when you come back, you got to be more critical about it. You got to think about it more. And it really helps you to stabilize, it's you got to take things apart, put them back together again. And you say, oh, I never did get rid of that part over there, that impediment there. I never cleaned that lens. I never cleaned that windshield. I need to do that. So I'm just using some metaphor here, but so my point is that, you've got to make the effort and start designing something that is going to work for you, and have compassion for yourself when things kind of drift away. You got to pull it back and get right back to it as soon as you can.
Lance, I have one more question. You had talked about coming up with a Buddhist spiritual entity that you can focus on.
Yes.
And I know that some individuals in Tibet, hermits, they actually identify completely with that entity. They almost become that. What advice do you have for choosing?
Well, we talk about it as a meditational deity.
I mean, yes, thank you for that.
There's other different ways of expressing it and so on. In the beginning, it's really good to use the example of Shakyamuni Buddha. It's the most ubiquitous, and you see the huge statue in the shrine room at Dharma Surya, and you can get statues and you can get paintings, and even if it's just a picture, you can have that right in your home very easily and so on. So it's the Buddha who is the teacher who has brought all this to us. His gift was the gift of showing us how we can cut ourselves off from our emotional tendencies and so on like that. So that's what his gift is. In order to do that, he began to break it down. He began to say, okay, here's the white light, but I'm going to put this white light through a prism. And now you see that there's a red light, there's a blue light, there's a green light, a yellow light, and that white light and so on. And each of those different lights are different activities of the Buddha. So those different activities may be the things that you or anybody responds to, and help them to focus their attention on what it is that they need to do. So they become their meditational deity for some period of time. So maybe it's compassion, maybe it's wisdom, maybe it's healing, maybe it's fearlessness. So these meditational deities help us to do that. But by starting with Buddha Shakyamuni and then getting familiar with the practices and so on, and then finding what resonates with you, because I need to work on that, then you can use that other meditational deity and saying, oh, they're all part of the same thing. They're not exclusive of each other, but they're just focused in their activities. So it's a question of becoming familiar with what those activities are. So, and that comes from being part of the program, and if there's enough interest, I mean, we've been teaching Buddhism 101 for 15 years, 16 years now, and we keep going over the same thing. But there have been periods when we've done Buddhism 102 and Buddhism 201. But it comes when people say, hey, I want some more teaching. What else can you teach? Or I read this, can you explain this? And then we'll make the effort to put something together. But we can't do it until somebody asks for it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Will you send me information on a meditational deity concerning fearlessness, Lance? That would be.
Well, that would be Tara.
Tara, okay.
That would be tar, white tar or green tar or the 21 tars, but mostly it would start off with green tar. You know, I don't know if you have the Deity Yoga book that we have at Dharma Surya, you know, but there is a practice in there about green tar. And you could go to Google, and I'm sure if you Google green tar, a whole bunch of stuff's going to come up. So I would suggest maybe start reading some stuff. And if you come to the center when I'm there or somebody else is there, you know, this weekend would be a good time, and say you want to see something about green tar, there'll be stuff there. You know, we've got a whole lending library downstairs in our children's area in the lower level. And I know there's books on tar down there. So it's a matter of making yourself available to go and do these things. You know, take a chance and get a book. It may not be the one that you want, but you might learn something else from it, you know, and we gotta, you know, we gotta start extending ourselves a little bit. Okay, so green tar, fearlessness.
Thank you.
So if anybody comes to the center this weekend, it's going to be Medicine Buddha this coming weekend. They're going to give empowerment on Saturday. Friday night is going to be like a public introductory talk. The lamas are arriving tomorrow, and they are going to be building a something about what 48 inches square a sand mandala that you should see. You should come, and so it's going to take them 4 days to build this thing. It's amazing. And if you come and on a daily basis and see the progress of it, you'll be very impressed. And so Friday night is going to be a public teaching. Saturday is going to be the empowerment in the morning. And then there's going to be practice and more explanation during the afternoon. And then it's going to continue on Sunday. So there'll be 4 lamas from the Saramay Monastery in southern India are going to be there. It's going to be on Zoom for those of you who can't be in Dharma Surya. It's better than nothing. But if you can, if you live in the area, you should come. And you should come, you know, if you can come for an hour or two, it's great. If you can come for a day, that's better. And whatever it takes, you know, but make the effort. And there'll be people there that can help you. Curtis is likely to be there. Tom is likely to be there. Maybe Gary will be there, and they can introduce. They can show you where the lending library is. Kate is likely to be there, and they can help you. You know, or you can ask. You know, somebody looks like they know what they're doing, and talk to them and say, "Oh, I understand there's a library here. You know, can you talk to me? You know," and that's what we're there for. We're brothers and sisters to help share. That's what the Sangha is about. The community is to help each other to grow and to become stable.
Lance, if I can add a comment, you talked about things being online for the Medicine Buddha, and I think that most of it is, but the actual empowerment, I believe, will be in person only. So people, if they want the empowerment, they will have to come into the temple. And
Correct.
it's a great opportunity.
Yes, correct. Thank you very much. You're right. Yes, it's a great opportunity. Did you want to finish your thought? Go ahead.
No, that was my thought.
Yeah, and the empowerment is an initiation. It is getting the instructions and the meaning of what the practice is from the Buddha. So it's coming through the Vajra master. It's coming through the Lama who is there. But that teaching has come through from Shakyamuni Buddha 2,600 years ago. And so this Vajra master is just the embodiment of that, who is sharing it with us. And he's reading a book. And the book that he's reading is the same book that all the other Vajra masters read when they are giving these kinds of empowerments. So you're getting the authentic initiation handed down from centuries and centuries and centuries. So it's very important. So that's why we want to be there in person. It's a heart transmission from the heart of the Vajra master, of the teacher, from his heart to your heart. So you need to be there for that. And you get it as many times as you can, however many empowerments you can, as often as you can. So to do the practice, so it's an empowerment, an initiation to do the practice. The practice is for you to become the deity, for you to become the meditational deity. It's teaching you how to do it with the proper, authentic way of doing it. So like what I do is just a brief introduction, but they go through a lot more than I can do, and it's worthwhile. So hopefully there'll be many more initiations, empowerments coming up in this next year. So just while we're on that topic, there's 3 parts of an empowerment. There's the empowerment itself, where it's the explanation of the meaning of the practice and so on. Then there is the instruction on how to do the practice. That's the second part. And the third part is called the transmission. And the transmission is from the Lama, from the Buddha, from his heart into your heart. And that is something that, you just sit there and you just close your eyes and you just let yourself go into a meditation, and you let that vibration of that transmission from the heart of the Lama come into your heart. And so what the transmission is, he's reading the entire text, the entire practice, the entire Deity Yoga practice of, in this case, it'd be Medicine Buddha. He's reading it in Tibetan. He does it very fast. So it's kind of like a knife cutting right through all your duality, all your confusion, and it goes right into your heart, and it stays with you. And because it's coming from his heart into your heart, it's beyond the words that he's uttering. It has to be experienced. So those are the 3 parts of an empowerment. So you can see we're getting past the fundamental indoctrination of, some of the basic precepts of the Dharma teaching. And now we're getting into the practices and receiving the transmissions of the Dharma practices, where the transformation comes, not just an intellectual transformation, but a spiritual transformation, where our body, speech, and mind are all coming together. Om Ahom. So that's where we are in our conversations here at 101 at this point right now. Okay, well, we're getting close to the end here. Does anybody else have anything you want to add to this? Okay.
I would just like to say thank you for a very concise and insightful read of that book. Like I read it and I practiced it, but it's good to have this summarization to refer to and to use as I'm meditating. So thank you for your going over all this again. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I hope you do it every day.
Thank you, Lance.
All right. Well, we still need to do our dedication. So
Yes.
so we do the opening prayers. That's the first part of whatever session we're doing. The middle part is the meditation itself, or the practice, or the teaching itself. And then the third part is the dedication for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. So whatever merit we have gathered, whatever wisdom, skillful means, compassion, that we are now dedicating that for enlightenment for all sentient beings. So that's the next part. So we go to our books. We go to page 18, 19, the dedication prayers, where it says the lineage dedication prayer. So it begins by paying homage to the lineage masters. These are the Kagyu lineage masters. And this lineage, our lineage, is the lineage of the yogis. So this is not an exclusive intellectual lineage. This is a lineage of practitioners, of yogis. So it's very important. So these are the masters of that. So we say, Dorje Chang, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Gampopa, Pagmadrupa, and Lord Kumpa. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue, may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, and sickness and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind. Where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri, the warrior, realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Trikumpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, bodhisattvas, yogins, yoginis, and dakinis, dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by myself and all sentient beings, and samsara and nirvana, and the innate word of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shavaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Mars and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May the attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concerns for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, Ah, Hom. Om, Ah, Hom. Om, Ah, Hom. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you all very much. So we'll be off for 2 weeks for 101. I'm going on retreat, and we'll be back on the 28th, November 28th, Monday night. So send out a reminder for that. And so thank you for joining us, and please practice.
Thank you, Lance. You're awesome. Have a good night.
Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Lance, and have a good trip.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You all take care of things at Dharma Surya.
Thank you, Lance.
All right. Thanks, Gary. Okay.
Have a wonderful trip, Lance.
Oh, thank you very much, Curtis. I look forward to it. Yeah.
Good night, Lance. Good night, everyone.
Okay. All right, Brendan. Thank you very much.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Lance, did you know that Drupal is coming to the Charlottesville area in early December?
Has he chosen the date yet?
No, I may have mentioned that, but I knew you'd want to know about it, even if I'm repeating
I
myself.
know it's being discussed, so I don't know what the outcome is.
Yeah, we'll hear about it from Pema.
And we'll see what we can do about that, you know.
I mean, I don't know how long he's available, but well, anyway, actually, I think that I would talk to Fawn today, and she just thinks it's probably premature until we got the nun, situated and settled down and all that. But anyway, he's close by. That's the important thing.
Maybe he'll come to my house.
Yeah, good example. I like the idea of that.
So it'll be up for you guys to have a road trip.
I would certainly be open to that sort of thing.
Okay, good. Okay. I mean, he's been here many times, and we've done that many times. All right. Well, very
Thank you
good.
all. Good night, everyone.
Good
Good night.
night.
Thank you. All right. I look forward to seeing you soon. Okay. Take care of things. Okay. Did you, by the way, I didn't, what do you think of the Bumsock?
Who?
You guys, did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
Good. I meant to ask Hatley and I didn't remember. I didn't get it in time. All right. Curtis, I know you enjoyed it.
Yeah, at times it was a little loud. That's the only thing I can say.
Nah,
Okay.
louder, longer, better.
Faster too, much faster.
Yep. Cutting right through. All right. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Good night.
You too.
See
Good
you
night.
soon. All right. Bye-bye.